Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 64. Daf Samach Dalet, Sod, and it makes it even more interesting. Today's Daf and the Gematria. I don't usually present the PL89 calendar. The work I've been working on for about 13 years. It's a lunar and solar calendar, a Daf Yomi calendar, and it's a quantum gematriatic thought calendar. And you'll see in a moment what I mean by that, gematriatic thought calendar. Today, I make special videos about the PL89, aside from the work that I do with Tekus, all the unresolved questions in the Talmud, along with the Daf Yomi. And this is the PL89 Gematriatic Thought Calendar, which basically understands time in that it's a calendar as all Gematriatic, meaning every moment expressed in numbers connects to another Gematria, which is supposed to help see the bigger picture in some way, in a way that I'm still finding out. But today is one of those days where it's just things are lining up in some incredible way. The philosophy or the practice is gematritizing everything. I gematritize if I'm reading a label and it's a Hebrew letters and stuff, even English, but I'll gematritize that, and everything is numbers, which is really words, because gematria is doing exactly that. Today, I spoke at length about something in Judaism called the Sod HaIbur, the secret of intercalations. The word Sod HaIbur, in addition to it being today Sod, Samach Daled of Avodah Zarah, if you take the words Avodah Zarah and you add Samach Daled to it, like the Daf today, Avodah Zarah Samach Daled equals 363, and 363 equals Sod HaIbur. So it's Sod in two ways, because it's Samach Daled, and also I spoke at length about the Sod HaIbur. I don't know if I've ever done that before, but today I did that without any prior knowledge of the Daf equaling that exact gematria. Sod HaIbur, but I think you spell Ibur without a Yud. So I think if you spell Ibur with a Yud, it's be 73, but you can spell it without a Yud too. So that's really interesting. Today's Daf, Avodah Zarah Samach Daled equals Sod HaIbur, and I talked about that on my calendar today at length. That being said, let's start the Daf on the bottom of 63b. Amar Nachman Yishbon Zoyl Brach Olemam Sailen Oidrin Magoy B'Chlaim. Rav Nachman said he may break them and let a blessing come upon them. The Gemara suggests, let us say that a Braita supports his opinion. One may not hold together with a non-Yehudi in a field that contains a forbidden mixture of diverse kinds. Now we're turning to 64a, top of the page, and I'm seeing it right in front of me. Avodah Zarah Samach Daled equals 363. Sod HaIbur. Okay. But one may uproot diverse kinds with him in order to reduce impropriety. Sagruha Hamani Rabbi Akiva Diama Mekayim Bichlaim Loik Ditanya Hamanakish Biamachape Bichlaim Loik Rabbi Akiva Omer Af Hamikaya. Also, I should mention that in my system, Rabbi Akiva has a connection to Thursday, and this has been that way for a few years. And I live now near a street called Rabbi Akiva, and I usually walk there on Thursday, and I'm seeing him here in the Talmud on Thursday. The sages initially assumed that, in accordance with whose opinion is this Braita? It is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that not only one who sows or grows diverse kinds, but even one who maintains diverse kinds is flawed. As it is taught in Braita, one who removes the weeds interfering with the growth of the plants, or who covers the seeds of diverse kinds with earth is flogged. Rabbi Akiva says even one who maintains them instead of actively uprooting them is flogged. My time is Rabbi Akiva. What is the reason Rabbi Akiva? Amar Kra, Sadecha lo tizra kilayim. Ainli ela Zorah mikayim minayin. Talmud lo amar lo kilayim. The Gemara asks, what is the reason of Rabbi Akiva? The Gemara answers, the verse states, you shall not sow your field with diverse kinds of seed. Leviticus 19:19. I have derived only the case of one who sows. From where is it derived that one who maintains diverse kinds also receives lashes? The verse states, not diverse kinds of seeds, indicating that there should not be diverse kinds of one's field. The Gemara concludes its support for the opinion of Rav Nachman. It is prohibited to maintain diverse kinds, but nevertheless, if one wishes to maintain diverse kinds temporarily in order to be paid for uprooting them, thereby reducing impropriety, it is permitted. Similarly, it is permitted for one to receive payment for breaking barrels of wine used for a libation. Lo mani rabbanani. The Gemara rejects this explanation. No. In accordance with whose opinion is this Braita, which deems it permitted for one to uproot diverse kinds with a Gentile? It is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, who permit one to maintain diverse kinds, but prohibit one from maintaining wine used for a libation. So, there is no proof from this Braita in support of Nachman's opinion. The Gemara asks, if the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, why does the Tana specifically permit uprooting with a non-Yehudi? Even maintaining the diverse kinds is permitted. The Gemara answers, here we are dealing with a case where we perform the uprooting unpaid, and it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says that giving an unpaid gift to a non-Yehudi is prohibited. Midar Yehuda nishma Rabbi Akiva alav, amar Rabbi Yehuda, asur litain lahem matnas chinam, afilu lemeod etiv leshaper dami, leRabbi Akiva nami, afal gad amar Rabbi Akiva, hamekayim bichlaim loiken, lemeod etiv leshaper dami, yesur lo midi. The Gemara reasons that Rav Nachman's ruling can, in any event, be proven from this Braita, from the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. We may understand the halacha according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Doesn't Rabbi Akiva say that it is permitted to give a Gentile an unpaid gift, but to reduce impropriety he holds that it is permitted to work with a Gentile? The same can be said according to Rabbi Akiva as well. Although Rabbi Akiva says that one who maintains diverse kinds is flogged, he presumably holds that if the purpose is to reduce impropriety, it is permitted. The Gemara concludes that nothing more is to be said on this matter. Hado yaseh kamabayilo, the mevarizami ad goimau. Rav Nachman Ula, Avimi bar Papi, and Rabbi Chia bar Ami were sitting again at a dilemma, and a dilemma was raised before them with regard to the proceeds from the sale of an object of idol worship that are in the possession of a non-Yehudi who sold the object to another. What is the halakha? Does the object of idol worship transfer its forbidden status to the money that is in the possession of a non-Yehudi as it would to money in the possession of a Yehudi or not? Amar Luhu, Rav Nachman, Yistachla Demei Avodah Zarah B'yad Goy Mutarin. Midihan, Yasud Kamera B'Bavu. Amar Luhu, Zilu Zabinu Kol Madit Lechu V'Tuit Gairu. Rav Nachman said to them, it stands to reason that the proceeds from the sale of an object of idol worship in the possession of a non-Yehudi are permitted. This may be proven from a certain non-Yehudim who came before Rabbi Baravu to convert. Rabbi Baravu said to them, go sell everything that you have, including your objects of idol worship, and then come back to me to convert. My time, Mishum de Kasado, Demei Avodah Zarah B'yad Goy Mutarin, V'Dil Mishani Hasam. What is the reason he gave this advice? Isn't it because he maintains that the proceeds from the sale of an object of idol worship in the possession of a non-Yehudi are permitted, and therefore he suggests they sell the objects of idol worship so they could derive benefit from the money after they converted? The Gemara rejects this proof, but perhaps it is different there, as since their intention is to convert, they certainly revoked the idolatrous status of these objects. When they sold them, they were selling permitted items. עד שימכור עובד הזר לאבילך, יהיה נסח לאבילך אסור. Rather, proof may be brought from here. As it is taught in Braita, in the case of a Jew, of a Yehudi, who was a creditor to a non-Yehudi for the amount of 100 dinars, and the non-Yehudi sold an object of idol worship, and from the proceeds brought him the payment of the debt, or sold wine used for a libation, and from the proceeds brought him the payment of the debt, the money is permitted. But if the non-Yehudi said to him, wait for me until I sell an object of idol worship, and from the proceeds I will bring you the payment of the debt, or wait until I sell wine used for libation, and from the proceeds I will bring you the payment of the debt, this money is forbidden. This proves that the proceeds of an object of idol worship in the possession of a non-Yehudi are permitted. The Gemara asks, what is different in the first clause that is permitted, and what is different in the latter clause that is forbidden? Rav Sheshes said in the latter clause the proceeds are forbidden because the Yehudi desires the preservation of the object of idol worship or wine used for libation, since he knows that the non-Yehudi must sell it in order to repay the debt. The Gemara asks, and if he desires its preservation, in a case like this, is the money forbidden? But didn't we learn in a Braita, in a Mishnah, in Demai, in the case of a convert and a non-Yehudi who inherited from their non-Yehudi father, the convert can say to his non-Yehudi brother, you take the objects of idol worship and I will take the money. Or you take the wine used for libation, I will take the produce. But if they make this exchange after the property came into possession of the convert, it is forbidden. It is forbidden. It is forbidden. Amar Rav Barula, Mastis Bavai Zarah Mitchalekes. Rav Barula said, the ruling of the Mishnah stated with regard to an object of idol worship whose value can be distributed among its shards, meaning even if it were broken to pieces, its value would remain. So the convert does not desire its preservation. Tinach, how we know it. The Gemara asks, the resolution works out well in The case of objects of idol worship with regard to wine used for libation, what is there to say? There is no situation in which the convert does not desire the preservation of the wine until the exchange. The Gemara answers, the ruling of the Mishnah stated with regard to the Hadrianic earthenware permeated with wine used for libation. Since the wine can be extracted by soaking the earthenware in water, the convert does not desire that the vessel remain intact. ושלא יאבדו אלא אמר פאפה ירוש הסגל כאמן שאני רשות הסגל דאכילו בבנן גזיר שמא יחזור לקיל כולו. The Gemara asks, but doesn't he desire its preservation in the sense that it should be not stolen or lost? Rather, if Papa said that, there is a different resolution. You say there is a difficulty from the case of the inheritance of the convert. The inheritance of the convert is different, as the sages were lenient with regard to it, as rabbinic decree, lest he return to his corrupted ways. If it were prohibited for him to inherit property from his father. In the case of one who is not a convert and desires the preservation of objects of idol worship, it's prohibited for him to profit from it. Now we turn to 64b on the top of the page, starting with Tanya when we come back from the break. And we're back on the top of page 64b. This is also on the bicep in support of this statement. In the Brita, we also learned a Brita like this. In what case is a statement that a convert and a non-Yehudi are permitted to divide up common property that includes objects of idol worship said? This is said with regard to property that they inherited, but if they were partners, it is prohibited. Hadur yasvu v'komibaylahu ger toshav mahu shibatel avodah zarah. Di palach mevatel, di lo palach lo mevatel, odima kol davar mineh mevatel v'hai bar mineh hu. The Gemara mentions another discussion among Rav Nachman, Ula, Avim Bar Papi, and Rav Chia Bar Hami. They were sitting again, and a dilemma was raised before them. With regard to a Gentile who resides in Eretz Yisrael, a non-Yehudi, I should say, regarding to a non-Yehudi who resides in Eretz Yisrael and observes the 7 Noachai mitzvot, the Ger Toshav, including the prohibition against engaging in idol worship, what is the halacha with regard to the possibility that he may revoke the status of objects of idol worship? Is it the case that one who worships idols can revoke the status of one, but one who does not worship them cannot revoke the status of one? Or perhaps, should it be reasoned that anyone who is of the same kind as idol worshippers, meaning a non-Yehudi, can revoke its status, and a Ger Toshav is of the same kind as idol worshippers? Nachman says to them, stands to reason that one who worships idols can revoke the status of one, but one who does not worship them cannot revoke the status of one. Meisavei Yisrael shemoitz avet Zarah b'shuk ad shelo ba'asu liyado amar legoy mevatalo mishe ba'asu liyado ein amar legoy mevatalo mipnei shamu goy mevatalo Zarah shelo yisharoyo ben Avodah ben shelo Avodah. The Gemara raises an objection to this ruling from Brighton. In the case of a Yehudi who found an object of idol worship in the marketplace, as long as it has not yet come into his possession, he can tell a non-Yehudi, and the non-Yehudi can revoke its idolatrous status. Once it has come into his possession, he cannot tell the non-Yehudi and have the non-Yehudi revoke its status. This applies to any non-Yehudi, because the sages said a non-Yehudi can revoke the status of his own objects of idol worship or that of another non-Yehudi, whether he worships it or whether he does not worship it. My Avodah, or my Sheino, What is meant by the phrase worships it, and what is meant by the phrase does not worship it? If we say both this and that are referring to a non-Yehudi, this is the same as the previous statement in the Braita, that a non-Yehudi can revoke the status of his own object of idol worship. Just one moment, please. Yes, please. We are back after plugging in the computer. Okay? Where are we holding here? Let's just go back to the beginning of the paragraph. What is meant by the phrase worships it, and what is meant by the phrase does not worship it? If we say both this and that is referring to a non-Yehudi, this is the same as the previous statement in the Braita, that a non-Yehudi can revoke the status of his own object of idol worship, or that of another non-Yehudi, meaning an object that he worships or one that another non-Yehudi worships. Rather, isn't it to be understood that the phrase worships it is referring to a non-Yehudi? And what is the meaning of the phrase do not worship it is referring to a gertoishav, who does not worship any idols, and learn from it that a gertoishav can also revoke the status of an object of idol worship. לא אילם אין מלך אידי ואידי גוי ודכאמרת היינו שלו ושל חברו רשע זה וזה לפאר וזה וזה נאמר קוליס ספר זה לפאר וזה נאמר קוליס. The Gemara rejects this explanation. No, actually I will say to you that this phrase and that phrase are both referring to a non-Yehudi. And with regard to that which you say, that this is the same as the statement concerning his object of idol worship or that of another non-Yehudi, it can be explained as follows. The first clause is referring to a case where both non-Yehudim worship the same idol. For example, this one and that one both worship or this one and that one both worship Mercury. And the Braita is teaching that one can revoke the status of an idol that belongs to the other. The latter clause, which distinguishes between one who worships it and one who does not worship it, is referring to a case where this one worships Peor and that one worships Mercury, indicating that an idolater can revoke the status of an idol that he does not worship at all, but only if he is himself an idolater, as opposed to a gertoisha. Meisvei, hey zehu gertoisha. Kosh Gimela Bipnei Shloshim Chaverim Shlo Avodah Zarah Devamer. The Gemara raises an objection for the Braita. Who is a gertoishav? It is anyone who has accepted upon himself before three Chaverim, meaning three Talmidei Chachamim, people devoted to the meticulous observance of mitzvahs, especially of purity, truma, and tithes, not to worship idols. This is the statement of Rameir. Say to say. Rabbis say, anyone who has accepted upon himself observance of the seven mitzvot that the descendants of Noah accepted upon themselves is a gertoisha. Others say, Elu lo ba'u l'chal gertoisha, ela ezel gertoisha, ze ger oich neveres, shekibel okayim mitzkol mitzvah muztara chutz yisrael. Others say these have not entered the category of gertoishav. Rather, who is a gertoishav? This is a convert who eats unslaughtered animal carcasses, which are not kosher, but who has accepted upon himself to observe all of the mitzvot that are stated in the Torah, but not Shabbos, right? I don't think it would be Shabbat. Okay, so anyway, the question. Are stated except for the prohibition against eating unslaughtered carcasses. Ba'ir Sheruba Yisrael Yachadin Eslo Yair Afilu The Braita continues, whatever the definition of a gertoishav, the following halachot apply to him. One may leave him alone with wine briefly without Jewish supervision, with no concern that he might use it for libation, thereby rendering it forbidden to Jews, Yehudim, and he is not an idol worshiper. But one may not deposit wine with him for an extended period of time, lest he exchange it with the wine of a non-Yehudi, which is forbidden, And this applies even in a town that has a Jewish majority. But one may leave him alone with wine briefly without Jewish supervision, even in a town with a majority of non-Yehudim. His oil is treated like his wine in terms of permissibility. In terms of permissibility, Shemen Mika Avi Yain Nesach Elienu Shamno. The Gemara interjects, his oil is like his wine. Can this enter your mind? Does the oil of a non-Yehudi become or assume the status of wine used for libation? Rather, the Braita should be amended as follows. His wine is like his oil. It is permitted to derive benefit from it, but not to consume it. Yishakol Dava Harehu Gigoy Rabbi Shimon Hamel Yen Ezu V'Amalila Muta B'Shtim. The Braita continues, with regard to all the matters, a Gertoishav is treated like a Gentile. The non-Yehudi, Rabbi Shimon says, his wine is treated like wine in his revelation. And some say, he says, even drinking is permitted. Katani, Miha Risham Kol Devarav Vayhu Kegoy Namahim Chata, Lam Devav Levav Zarah Kegoy, Amar Nachman Bar Yitzchak Lo, Litnin Rishut Levat Rishut. The Gemara comments on the Braita. In any event, the Braita teaches, and with regard to all other matters, a Gertoishav is treated like a non-Yehudi. With regard to what halacha is stated, is it not teaching that he can revoke the status of an object of idol worship as a non-Yehudi can? Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says no. It is stated with regard to giving away rights in a domain or renouncing rights in a domain in the context of the halachot of joining houses in courtyards for Shabbat. The Chiditanya Yisrael Meshumad Mishamer Shabbato B'Shuk Vivater B'Rshus Sheir Mishamer Shabbato B'Shuk and Vivater Rshus Yipnei Shamru Yisrael Nosin Rshus Vivater Rshus. And this is, as is taught in a Braita, an apostate Jew who nevertheless observes his Shabbat in the marketplace, meaning in public, can renounce his rights in a shared domain so that other Yehudim in the domain may carry it on Shabbat. But an apostate who does not observe Shabbat, even in the marketplace, cannot renounce his rights in a domain because the sages said that only a Yehudi can give away rights in his domain or renounce his rights in his domain. And this applies in the context of joining houses in courtyards on Shabbat. Uvegoy ad shish isko ketzad omer lo reshuti knuya lach reshuti mevatelet lach kana ve'en tzarich lizakot. With regard to a non-Yehudi, this is not effective unless the Yehudi leases his domain in the courtyard. How so? A Yehudi may say to another Yehudi, my rights in this domain are hereby acquired to you, or my rights in this domain are hereby renounced to you. And the other Yehudi thereby acquires those rights, and it is not necessarily for him to take possession of it through a formal act of acquisition. The Gemara relates to Yehuda sent a gift.